Back this afternoon with our top story video released late this morning showing the Chicago police shooting that killed 18-year-old Paul O'Neill. Independent police review authorities been charged with investigating the shooting. And joining us to talk more about it is attorney Antonio Romanucci, who has filed more than a dozen police misconduct cases in the city and has done work nationally. Antonio, thanks for being here, first of all.
Good afternoon, Corey.
You've had a chance to see the clips.
You've
had a chance to analyze what happened. You've been around a long time. You've seen a lot of things. What strikes you, what you saw?
Well, I think we heard Sharon Farley say that it's shocking and disturbing, and that's to say the least. I think that's almost an understatement. What I saw here was almost lawlessness. I saw police officers that were clearly either not familiar with the policies, directives, and orders of the Chicago Police Department, or who were very poorly trained. It was incredible to watch what I saw.
Well, let's start at the beginning. Gary McCarthy, former superintendent, just was on with us a moment ago and pointed out very specifically about what the new policies are in terms of, for example, shooting at a vehicle.
Correct.
No longer permissible under almost any circumstance.
True.
And that was done.
Oh, that was done.
Right.
And I think what's significant, if you look at this video clip, and, you know, since it just came out, I looked at him very quickly, but I saw some very key points here, Corey. That the police officer who was involved in the shooting, at least one of them, had his gun in his hand before he was outside the vehicle.
Looking at the video right now, we might be able to ascertain what you're talking about. Well, there's the gun is up.
Yeah, we already passed that point, and he's shooting, and if we heard audio, I actually picked up the clip falling to the ground, so we know it sounds like he emptied out his clip within about what I determined to be about 6 seconds.
Now, in fairness, Antonio, also in listening to this clip, and these clips don't tell the whole story. We can't pretend that they do, but we did hear officers' conversation, something about he has a gun. He had a gun, right? Thinking, in other words, the thought is that maybe someone out there thought that O'Neill had a gun.
Clearly.
Possible?
Always possible, and clearly you have to consider what's called the totality of the circumstances. Officers, we know, they're required to make split-second judgments and decisions constantly. We know that that's an issue when they're on the street. However, the calls before this did not indicate that he was violent or had a gun.
Let me ask you this. The idea that this video has been released only days after the incident, the transparency shockingly different from what we've seen in the past, is that a sign of changing times? Is it a sign of progress? How do you view it?
Oh, I see it incredible sign of progress. Really, what Eddie Johnson has done here, what he's doing, not only is he creating a sense of transparency and trust in the community, but he's really breaking down the code of silence, because he did not come out and immediately defend the actions of those officers. Typically, what we've seen in the past with other superintendents and other spokespeople, they come out, they justify that shooting immediately. We didn't see that with Eddie Johnson. He took his time, he was objective, he was reasonable, and that should be the beginning of trust.
Let me ask you also about this. The family very upset about how O'Neill was treated just after he was shot. The officers immediately cuffed him, seemed to be rough with him, and didn't go out of their way, it didn't appear from the clips we saw, to aid him. Thoughts on that?
That's also an issue, because the first thing the police are supposed to do is offer aid. They're supposed to render assistance and aid. Now, part of their training also requires that they restrain the suspect because of potential danger. So a lot of times we see police officers who arrest suspects who are on the ground. There's a question as to whether or not that's reasonable. However, what should be first and foremost on their mind is rendering first aid, and I can't see the family being criticized for having those thoughts and feelings.
After all the attention, not just locally but nationally, on Chicago police and their conduct and shooting of in many cases, innocent victims, are you surprised this happened?
I am. I really am surprised, because you would think that somehow there'd be some culture instilled in the police department that they have to act with a sense of justice, act within the Constitution, and we're far afield here. This is there's not like what I see as a little mistake here. This is a big mistake, and I'm a little surprised at this.
Antonio Romanucci, we appreciate you coming on, and we'll talk again soon, I'm sure.
Thank you, Corey.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you so
Appreciate your
much.
thoughts.